transcended now. Do you think the game has progressed, or do you think it has become compromised? Because now hip hop, which was, like you said, started in the community, now has turned into a multi-billion-dollar business. So, do you think it has become compromised for business practices? Do you think the art was lost, in your opinion, now when you hear hip hop?
I say this, like, for nowadays, like, if you're into, like, if you like the 90s sound or that type of hip hop or whatever, it's like it's there, but you have to find it. It's not being promoted as much as that era, but times change. The good thing about hip hop is that the internet and a lot of the social media has made it easier, where you don't have to deal with labels. Artists don't have to deal with labels. It's really a choice. Like, you can really go independent and, you know what I mean, and build your own fan base and book your own shows, and you don't really have to worry about a middleman if that's what you choose. It's a lot of work, but I feel like it's worth it at the end of the day, because you have control over yourself and your creativity. And, as far as the art, like, I like some of the stuff that's coming out, I can't even lie. I'm not a bitter hater or nothing. Like, I like a lot of the stuff that's coming out. I adapt to it, and it's basically that. Like, the art form, it has to grow. It has to grow.
Correct.
It in the 90s, it didn't sound like the 80s either. Like, the vocabulary, it increased, and the cycle goes around. Now they feel like, all right, these rappers nowadays are like talking about a bunch of nothing, and it's like, really, it's just party time. But in the 80s, that's all they did. It was about partying and having fun. And sooner or later, it will turn back around to where it's more serious, more into politicals, and just more into the lyrical craft and the content.
Right. I think you bring up a great point, and I say that because 80s, you had the party music, but 90s, there was so many different elements that occurred in, like, the 90s. You had that crack era that just completely just ravished, communities. But then at the same time, you had teenagers and young adults that came across this drug that was like, you know what, I could make money off of this, right? So you had something that was killing the community, but then at the same time, you had people that was telling their story through how they got to make it on the streets. So that's how you had, I guess they would label it as that gangster rap that came through and things of that nature. So, like, when Snoop busted on the scene, Dre came on the scene, Wu-Tang came on the scene, like, you think about it, it was stories that was being told, through, like, a dark place. You agree?
Yes, it definitely was a story being told. It was always it was a message. It was a lot of fun going on and partying, but you always learn something from each artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just talking to my nephew about this earlier today. It's like these days, like, the kids nowadays don't care about the history. Like, they don't really care about that. All right, you were platinum and you probably sold this and toured the world and did everything, but we don't give a fuck. This is a new time, new days. We got social media. Yeah, I wasn't there. I wasn't born, so I could care less. It's more or less what you're doing now than what you did in the past, and it's a problem sometimes, because they don't get the right teaching. So it's up to the artists to teach them. The older artists, the elders, and
the big boom of social media and the internet, I mean, has really, well, it's done two things.